Hey, everybody. Welcome to Chapter 8 of the Srimad Bhagavatam study that we're doing. These are the prayers of Queen Kunti and the rescue, actually, of Pariksit Maharaj. So this chapter is very, very wonderful. And Queen Kunti, her prayers are prayers of pure devotion. And I would recommend you listen to these prayers as much as you possibly can over and over and over again, because I always get new insight. I've been reading these prayers now for almost 50 years, and I still am brought literally to tears when I read it, because this is all taking place right after the Battle of Kurukshetra. So literally millions of people have died. Everybody's friends are dead. The generals are dead. As a matter of fact, Bhishma is still laying on a bed of arrows on the battlefield. So this picks up at the very end of the last chapter. And if you don't mind, if you're going, when you read, unmute, and when you're not reading, go ahead and mute. So if everybody would just mute for us, we'd appreciate that. So we remember from the last chapter, which is Son of Drona Punished, Krishna had given Arjuna some equivocal instructions. And it was really quite difficult for Arjuna to really understand, because Krishna had said that a friend of a Brahmana is not to be killed, right? But if he's an aggressor, he must be killed. These rulings are in the scripture, and so Arjuna was to act accordingly. He had to fulfill his promise to his wife, who is supposed to stand on the head of Ashvatthama, who threw the Brahmastra weapon, right, at Arjuna. And he also, Ashvatthama had killed the 5 sleeping sons of Draupadi. And so he said, you have to fulfill your obligation and promise to her, and you must also act to the satisfaction of Bhimasena and me. And Bhima wanted him killed immediately, because he was such an aggressor. He'd kill sleeping children for no one's satisfaction, not his spiritual master's satisfaction, not his master's satisfaction, who is Dronacharya. And so he had acted against really any sane activity. So he was considered to be the burnt remnants of his family as a result of that. So at this time, Arjuna, the light bulb came on, and Arjuna could understand the equivocal orders, and thus, with his sword, he had cut the hair and jewel from Ashvatthama's head. He was Kshatriya, and so he had cut this jewel in his hair, which was actually just like killing him, but without actually killing the body. So he was able then to satisfy the Lord, and he was able to satisfy all parties involved in this situation. So this is where we're picking up from. And it says, thereafter, the sons of Pandu and Draupadi, overwhelmed with grief, performed the proper rituals for the dead bodies of their relatives. So now this is where chapter 8 picks up, and it's prayers of Queen Kunti and Pariksit saved. So chant with me. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jai. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane. Namaste Saraswati Devim Gauravani Pracharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschachari Shatarane. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much. So now I'll read a few, and then we're going to pass it around. I see Sue Davies joining us all the way from Guyana. And so we're very happy to have her. Sue Devi, I hope you have your Srimad Bhagavatam ready to chapter 8. And if you don't mind, you can read with us also. I'll take the first few verses, and then whoever would like to pick it up from there, please do. So text 1, Sutta Goswami said, thereafter the Pandavas, desiring to deliver water to the dead relatives who had desired it, went to the Ganges with Draupadi. The ladies walked in front. Having lamented over them and sufficiently offered Ganges water, they bathed in the Ganges, whose water is sanctified due to being mixed with the dust of the lotus feet of the Lord. And we all know that story, right? Where the Ganges River goes over the toe of Lord Vishnu and pours on the head of Lord Shiva, and it comes down to the material world. That's why everyone bathes in the Ganges River. Ganges River is a holy place, and its water is purifying. So therefore they went there and bathed in the river. There sat the king of the Kurus, Maharaj Yudhisthira, along with his younger brothers and Dhritarashtra, Gandhari, Kunti, and Draupadi, all overwhelmed with grief. Lord Krishna was also there. Citing the stringent laws of the Almighty and their reactions upon living beings, Lord Sri Krishna and the Munis began to pacify those who were shocked and affected by the battle of Kurukshetra and the loss of so many men in that great battle. So the clever Duryodhana and his party cunningly usurped the kingdom of Yudhisthira, who had no enemy. By the grace of the Lord, the recovery was executed, and the unscrupulous kings who joined with Duryodhana were killed by him. Others also died, their duration of life having decreased for their rough handling of the hair of Queen Draupadi. Lord Sri Krishna caused 3 well-performed Ashvamedha yajnas for sacrifices to be conducted by Maharaj Yudhisthira, and thus caused his virtuous fame to be glorified in all directions, like that of Indra, who had performed 100 such sacrifices. So if somebody like to pick up there, that's text 7. Would you like to read? Please get it. Go ahead. If you've got your book up and your...
Okay, I'll do.
Text 7.
Lord Sri Krishna then prepared for his departure. He invited the sons of Pandu after having been worshipped by the Brahmanas. Headed by Srila Vyasadeva, the Lord also reciprocated greetings. As soon as he seated himself on the chariot to start the Dwaraka, he saw Uttara hurrying toward him in fear. Uttara said, O Lord of Lords, Lord of the universe, you are the greatest of the mystics. Please protect me, for there is no one else who can save me from the clutches of death in this world of duality.
You may continue. Yes, just take about 6 or 8 verses.
Okay. O my Lord, you are all powerful. A fiery iron arrow is coming towards me fast. My Lord, let it burn me personally, if you so desire, but please do not let it burn and abort my embryo. Please do me this favor, my Lord. Sutta Goswami said, having patiently heard her words, Lord Sri Krishna, who is always very affectionate to his devotees, could at once understand that Aswathama, the son of Dronacharya, had thrown the Brahmastra to finish the last life in the Pandava family. O foremost among the great thinkers, seeing the glaring Brahmastra proceeding towards them, the Pandavas took up their 5 respective weapons. The Almighty Personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, having observed that a great danger was befalling his unallowed devotees, who were fully surrendered souls, at once took up his Sudarshan disc to protect them.
Very good. Thank you so much for that. Now, who else would like to read a minute? Sudevi, have you got your book up?
Actually, I couldn't follow. Is it
Text 14?
Canto?
And this is Canto 1. This would be chapter 8. So go to Canto 1, chapter 8, text 4. Well, you can follow us, and we'll let Rangavati read while you're looking that up, if that's okay. because we want to keep it moving. But you come up next, okay?
So text 14. The Lord of the supreme mysticism, Sri Krishna, resides within everyone's heart as the Paramatma. As such, just to protect the progeny of the Kuru dynasty, he covered the embryo of Uttara by his personal energy. O Sanaka, although the supreme Brahmastra weapon released by Svatama was irresistible and without check or counteraction, it was neutralized and foiled when confronted by the strength of Vishnu, Lord Krishna. O Brahmanas, do not think this to be especially wonderful in the activities of the mysterious and infallible personality of Godhead. By his own transcendental energy, he maintains and annihilates all material things, although he himself is unborn. Thus saved from the radiation of the Brahmastra, Kunti, the chaste devotee of the Lord, and her 5 sons and Draupadi addressed Lord Krishna as he started for home. You want me to continue?
A couple more.
Okay. Srimati Kunti said, O Krishna, I offer my obeisances unto you because you are the original personality and are unaffected by the qualities of the material world. You are existing both within and without everything, yet you are invisible to all. Being beyond the range of limited sense perception, you are the eternally irreproachable factor covered by the curtain of deluding energy. You are invisible to the foolish observer, exactly as an actor dressed as a player is not recognized. You yourself descend to propagate the transcendental science of devotional service unto the hearts of the advanced transcendentalists and mental speculators, who are purified by being able to discriminate between matter and spirit. How then can we women know you perfectly? Let me therefore offer my respectful obeisances unto the Lord, who has become the son of Vasudev, the pleasure of Devaki, the boy of Nanda, and the other cowherd men of Vrindavan, and the enlivener of the cows and the senses. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses.
Yep. Very good. Okay, is Sue Devi, you ready? Text 23?
Yes.
Okay, pick
Okay.
up text 23.
Okay. O Harshiki Sa, Master of the Senses and Lord of Lords, you have released your mother Devaki, who was long imprisoned and distressed by the envious King Kansa, and me and my children from a series of constant danger. My dear Krishna, your lordship has protected us from a poison cake, from a great fire, from cannibal, from the vicious assembly, from suffering during our exile in the forest, and from the battle where great generals fought. And now you have saved us from the weapon of Ashwatthama. I wish that all those calamities would happen again and again, so that we could see you again and again, for seeing you means that we will no longer see repeated birth and death. My lord, your lordship can easily be approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted one who is on the path of material progress, trying to improve himself with with respectable parentage, great opulence, high education, and bodily beauty, cannot approach you with sincere feelings. My obeisance are unto you, who are the property of the materially impoverished. You have nothing to do with the action and reaction of the material mood of nature. You are self-satisfied, and therefore you are the most gentle and are masters of the monist. My lord, I consider your lordship to be eternal time, the supreme controller without beginning and end, all the pervasive one. In distributing your mercy, you are equal to everyone. The dissension between living beings are due to social intercourse.
Okay.
O Lord, no one can understand your transcendental pastime, which appear to be human and so are misleading. You have no specific object of favor, nor do you have any object of envy. People only imagine that you are partial. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Sue Devi. That was very, very nice. Anybody else want to grab some? How about you, Bhavananda? Would you like to read from text 30?
I'm going to try here.
Can Sue Devi please switch to mute? Thank you.
Okay, starting at 30. Of course, it is bewildering, O soul of the universe, that you work though you are inactive, and that you take birth though you are the vital force in the unborn. You yourself descend amongst animals, men, sages, and aquatics. Verily, this is bewildering. My dear Krishna, Yasoda took up a rope to bind you when you committed an offense, and your perturbed eyes overflowed with tears, which forced the mascara from your eyes, and you were afraid, though fear personified is afraid of you. This sight is bewildering to me. Some say that the unborn is born for the glorification of pious kings, and others say that he is born to please King Yada, one of your dearest devotees. You appear in his family as sandalwood appears in the Malayan hills. Others say that since both Vasudev and Devaki prayed for you, you have taken your birth as their son. Undoubtedly, you are unborn, yet you take your birth for the welfare and to kill those who are envious of the demigods. Others say that the world, being overburdened like a boat at sea, is much aggrieved, and that Brahmana, who is your son, prayed for you, and so you have appeared to diminish trouble. Okay.
Okay. All right. I'll pick back up for a moment. And yet others say that you have appeared for the sake of rejuvenating the devotional service of hearing, remembering, worshiping, and so on, in order that the conditioned souls suffering from material pangs might take advantage and gain liberation. O Krishna, those who continuously hear, chant, and repeat your transcendental activities, or take pleasure in others doing so, certainly see your lotus feet, which alone can stop the repetition of birth and death. O my Lord, you have executed all duties yourself. Are you leaving us today, though we are completely dependent on your mercy and have no one else to protect us now when all Kings are at enmity with us. As the name and fame of a particular body is finished with the disappearance of the living spirit, similarly, if you do not look upon us, all our fame and activities, along with the Pandavas and Yadus, will end at once. O Gadadhara, Krishna, our kingdom is now being marked by the impressions of your feet, and therefore it appears beautiful, but when you leave, it will no longer be so. All these cities and villages are flourishing in all respects, because the herbs and grains are in abundance. The trees are full of fruits, the rivers are flowing, the hills are full of minerals, and the oceans are full of wealth. All this is due to your glancing over them. O Lord of the universe, soul of the universe, O personality of the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn unto you without being diverted to anyone else. O Krishna, O friend of Arjuna, O chief amongst the descendants of Vrishni, you are the destroyer of these political parties, which are disturbing elements on this earth. Your prowess never deteriorates. You are the proprietor of the transcendental abode, and you descend to relieve the distress of the cows, the brahmanas, and the devotees. You possess all mystic powers, and you are the preceptor of the entire universe. You are the Almighty God, and I offer you my respectful obeisances. Sutta Goswami said, the Lord, thus hearing the prayers of Kunti Devi, composed in choice words for his glorification, mildly smiled. That smile was as enchanting as his mystic power. Thus, accepting the prayers of Srimati Kunti Devi, the Lord subsequently informed other ladies of his departure by entering the palace of Hastinapur. But upon preparing to leave, he was stopped by King Yudhisthira, who implored him lovingly. King Yudhisthira, who was much aggrieved, could not be convinced, despite instructions by great sages headed by Vyas and the Lord Krishna himself, the performer of superhuman feats. And despite all historical evidence, King Yudhisthira, the son of Dharma, overwhelmed by the death of his friends, was aggrieved, just like a common materialistic man. O sages, thus deluded by affection, he began to speak. King Yudhisthira said, O my lot, I am the most sinful man. Just see my heart, which is full of ignorance. This body, which is ultimately meant for others, has killed many, many phalanxes of men. I've killed many boys, Brahmins, well-wishers, friends, parents, preceptors, and brothers. Though I live millions of years, I will not be relieved from the hell that awaits me for all these sins. There is no sin for a king who kills for the right cause, who is engaged in maintaining his citizens. But this injunction is not applicable to me. I've killed many friends of women and have thus caused enmity to such an extent that it is not possible to undo it, my material welfare work. As it is not possible to filter muddy water through mud or purify a wine-stained pot with wine, it is not possible to counteract the killing of men by sacrificing animals. So that is the chapter. We got through it pretty quick. We were doing kirtan in the beginning of these programs, but somehow or another, we can't get the musical setting here anymore. I don't know why. But we left the kirtan out, so now we have a lot of time to discuss this chapter, which is filled with all types of wonderful philosophy. So I'd like to see if anybody has any questions about this first.
I was just thinking to myself as you was reading there, obviously King Yudhisthira is a very he's a great devotee, and so obviously as a great devotee of Krishna, he's very compassionate and obviously takes responsibility for all of his actions. And so obviously he feels so bad that so many people, including his own sons, actually were all killed through the battle. But Queen Kunti is showing a completely different perspective here, because she's also a great devotee and very compassionate. She pleaded for Ashvatthama's life, despite the fact that he killed her sons, Draupadi's sons. And but all she wants is Krishna, and she just wants to be always thinking of Krishna and being with Krishna, never to leave Krishna, always there. So a little different perspective to what we see King Yudhisthira speaking.
Right.
Well,
Well, that's true. Well, when you think about Draupadi being such a fine lady and such a great devotee of the Lord, when she sees Ashvatthama brought in, even though she was agreeable to have Arjuna take his head and bring it to her so she could take her bath on his head. That was the statement Arjuna made. So at the time that the children were killed, she was lamenting desperately. And she actually probably did feel revenge. But when she saw Ashvatthama humbled and bound by ropes like an animal and humbled in every respect and defeated by Arjuna's prowess, she felt, her natural feminine quality. Number one, women have some wonderful qualities. If you read the Srimad Bhagavatam, it describes the qualities of women. And if you read, like we just had Radharani's appearance date, if you read the qualities of Radharani, those, 20 some odd qualities that are glorified, you'll see that these qualities are to be emulated by all women of the world, because she sets the standard, the appropriate standard of behavior for women. And if you read about those qualities, which we won't get into too much tonight, but just try to understand that great devotees are filled with compassion. When you look at Arjuna, he went on the battlefield. He saw his brothers, his cousins, his teachers, his maternal uncles. He saw everybody on the battlefield in such a fighting spirit that he dropped his bow and told Krishna, said, I shall not fight. I mean, what would it benefit me if I gained a whole kingdom with sovereignty like the demigods in heaven, when all those that we would choose to share it with are arrayed before us today in a fighting spirit, and they're willing to kill me? Even though they're willing to kill us, why should we act like them and want to kill them back? Better that we live by begging. So Arjuna was ready to go and become a mendicant, change his caste from Kshatriya to Brahmin, just to avoid the fighting. So Krishna had to speak Bhagavad Gita to bring Arjuna back to his consciousness. And the appropriate consciousness is called Krishna consciousness. And so as we go through this chapter, we'll see, you can see Queen Kunti is the most Krishna conscious person that ever lived. I mean, she's willing to go back through all these atrocities that they had to suffer. Poisoned cakes, they cheated them. They tried to strip Draupadi in front of the assembly. They exiled the Pandavas. They tried to kill them in the house of Lac. They tried to burn them down. They tried to poison them. They stole their kingdom from them. And when they came back after 13 years of exile, they said, we're here for our kingdom. They said, no way. The Kauravas said, no way. Dhritarashtra, Duryodhana said, no way. As a matter of fact, we're not even going to give you enough land that will fit on the head of a pin. And these are Kshatriyas who are duty bound to govern and administrate. And they were not given any service at all. So Krishna went to intervene. And Krishna went to speak to Dhritarashtra and Duryodhana. They wouldn't hear of it. So that's why the battle of Kurukshetra had to take place. No reasonable man would have denied them that these people were not reasonable, because they were affected by the desires for lust and greed and anger. And they were filled with pride, false pride, and they were covetous for fame, profit, adoration, and distinction. And so that's demoniac. Those are demoniac qualities. Those are not qualities of devotees. So this war took place as a religious war between good and evil. And this is right after the war. This is just right after the war, because we see here that all of them are gathered together and lamenting about the deaths of all these people that took place on the battlefield. And they were together and they were talking about the stringent laws of nature, of the Almighty, and their reactions upon living beings. They were discussing this. Okay, so Lord Krishna was there in that assembly, and he was there to pacify them, to speak sweet words to them, or to at least give them the philosophy they needed to be able to understand why this battle took place and why everybody had to, succumb to the will of the Lord. So if you read the purport on that particular one where it says citing the stringent laws of the Almighty, I believe that's number 4 in the beginning, it says the stringent laws of nature under the order of the Supreme Personality of Godhead cannot be altered by any living being. It cannot be altered. Okay, so, all right, let's just say that we don't believe in God. We don't believe in any religious dogma. We don't accept the Vedas. We don't accept any of this stuff. We'll just accept the scientist. Accept the scientist. What do they say? Every action has an opposite and equal reaction. This can be found in nature. This is a stringent law of God. If you kill someone, you shall be killed in the same way that you killed them. If you commit an atrocity against someone, they'll be able to commit that atrocity against you in the next life. Just like it says for those who eat the body of the cow, for an example, that they have to take a birth for every hair on the body of the animal and be killed like they killed the cow. As a matter of fact, in the Vedic literatures, when they offer the animal sacrifice back in the time of Sankaracharya, when they were using animal sacrifice, not necessarily for religious purposes, but for their own taste, the taste of flesh, when they had done that, they were bound up and they said a prayer. And that prayer was, yes, I take your life now, but you may take mine in return. And you may sustain your body just like I'm sustaining my body on you. So what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prayachati. With love, with bhaktya, offer me a leaf, fruit, flower, water, and I will accept. Even in the Bible, it says that every seed-bearing herb and plant shall be to you as your meat. Not that we should kill, even though we have dominion over the animals, doesn't mean that we should kill the animals. We have dominion over our family, but we don't kill and eat our children. Okay? So even though they were protected from cannibals, Sudevi had read that a minute ago, cannibals that they had to be protected from, people who would literally eat your flesh. Religious personalities don't do that. They're not interested in that. So the religion is to create, not to create anything. It's to simply accept the orders of the spiritual master, which is representing Sri Krishna in the Sampradaya. And by doing that, that's called Dharma or religion, to accept those orders given by the Lord. And everyone should follow the orders of the Lord, and that will make everybody happy, both materially and spiritually. So that's the idea behind they're faced with these stringent issues of reactions for their sins. And this is what Yudhisthira was so caught up with that you just mentioned, Rangavati, that he was very much worried about, the sinful reactions of that. Therefore, Krishna calls 3 horse sacrifices to be, or I believe Ashwamedha sacrifices to be carried out. And those are to relieve him of his sinful reactions. However, Yudhisthira did not feel at the very end of the chapter that he had been relieved of his sinful reactions. And he actually wanted to go to the battlefield. And he did. He went with Krishna and Arjuna, and a lot of demigods came, great personalities came. This is in the next chapter, to see Bhishma, who was on a bed of arrows dying, and hear Bhishma's discourse with Lord Sri Krishna, which is also just as amazing as Kunti's prayers. As a matter of fact, I can't wait to get to that one next because it's so beautiful. And Bhishma shows us how we should die, fixed on the form of the Lord, meditating on the form of the Lord. And Queen Kunti teaches us how we should live, because she's teaching us that it doesn't matter how many maladies come. Doesn't matter how much suffering, how much loss in the material world comes. Ultimately, everything will be lost in the material world anyway, either today, tomorrow, a year from now, or 100 years from now, everything will be lost. All these great kings who lived have lost everything. They've lost their kingdoms, they've lost their armies, they've lost their wives, they've lost their children. So what does she ask for? What does she ask for? She says, please remove this affection that I have for this family. Now, I need to clarify this just a little bit, because everybody don't run right out and just renounce your family. We don't want you to do that. But what we have to do is renounce our family in the sense of devotion. We dedicate our family to the service of God. We understand that these souls don't belong to us. We don't own these souls. They may be your children in this life. You may be their children in the next life. Who knows? There are great stories in the Srimad Bhagavatam depicting these situations. You've had millions of births. You've had millions of families. And if you want to stay in the material world to try to enjoy the family, you can definitely come back as many times as you want to. But you have to enter the womb of a mother. And you have to be born. And you have to be raised in that material body in whatever status or state that your karma delivers you to. And in that state, you have to suffer and you have to enjoy. Now, there is always suffering and there's always enjoyment. We try to forget the suffering. We just want to remember the enjoyment, right? I mean, a lot of us feel that way in the material world. So even we try to pick out the good out of the bad, so to speak. But it says that a devotee, a Vaishnava, a devotee of the Lord, is always aware of the evils of birth, death, old age, and disease. We're always aware because nobody wants these things. So when we say renounce the family, we're not renouncing the family. We're just dedicating our family to Krishna. We're giving our family to the Lord. We realize all this belongs to him for his enjoyment anyway. So we ask for that. So as we go on, is there any other comments or questions about those points right there? Because I'm gonna move on down the chapter a little bit.
I had one question.
Okay.
You mentioned that Lord Krishna advised Yudhisthira to do 3 horse sacrifices.
Yep.
Was that just to make Yudhisthira feel better? Because surely Yudhisthira hasn't incurred any sins because he was acting and killing and acting on behalf of the instructions given to him by Krishna.
Well, see, there's the difference between Yogamaya and Mahamaya, right? So Yogamaya means that we, like Mother Yasoda, Mother Devaki, they may not have realized at different times that this was their son, this was their child. Just like Yasoda tried to tie Krishna to a mortar, you know, for a grinding mortar, right? And she was chasing him, and she had a rope in her hand, and she was going to get God and tie God up. But at the time, she wasn't thinking this is God. At the time, she's thinking, this is my child, my rascal child. Because he's breaking butter pots. He's feeding the butter to the monkeys. He's being a child. He's having a lot of fun, right? So Mother Yasoda goes to get him, right? But the point is that Krishna played along just like an actor on a stage. So have you ever been to a play and you've seen someone you know who's a famous actor, but they're dressed up in character, right? Have you seen this before? You've seen this. So you don't know who they are. They look so different. It doesn't look like themselves. So Krishna, when he comes to the world, he disguises himself from the atheist. He doesn't reveal himself. But to his pure devotees, he does reveal himself over and over and over again. So they know that this is the personality of Godhead. They know that, right? And therefore, they act accordingly. Now, sometimes they fall in and out of this play, this yoga maya. And it, depending on the situation, that the Lord gives them knowledge, forgetfulness, and remembrance. This is what Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita. He provides us with that. All of us, as we surrender to him, he rewards us accordingly. Right. So these are great surrendered souls. These are pure devotees of God. These are souls that came down to the material world. In many cases, demigods took their birth here to perform these pastimes. And the Lord's eternal associates also took their birth. Subhadra was there. His sister was there, right? All of that was going on. And so one of the reasons why he performed the Ashvamedha Yajna was because he wanted to help Maharaj Yudhisthira to feel like he had absolved himself of these heinous activities of killing. But we see at the very end, Maharaj Yudhisthira says, I'm the lowest of all men. I've killed Brahmanas, I've killed children, I've killed warriors, I've killed phalanxes of men and soldiers. And there's no way that by sacrificing an animal that's going to work for me, not going to help me. So ultimately, if you read on in the Bhagavad Gita, you'll see that Maharaj Yudhisthira and the brothers and so forth, they went and renounced everything ultimately. But we won't talk about that yet. We're going to wait. We're going to wait. So the idea here is that Maharaj Yudhisthira needed to feel absolved. And Krishna wanted him to feel that way. And he wanted his glories to be spread all over the world, because this was the replacement of the evil kings. He wanted to establish this the right way. So, okay. So any other questions about that? Okay.
I just wanted to know who is Vrishnis. Like they have mentioned, like Kunti says,
Where are you reading?
yeah, it's text 41 where Kunti says that I just want to sever my tie from affection for my kinsmen, Pandavas and Vrishnis.
Yeah,
Who are
yeah.
Vrishnis?
Yeah, these are all just family members. These are
Family
all just
members.
part of their relatives. You know, you see here that everybody's related. Pretty much everybody here is related. You know, they're all related. On the battlefield of Kurukshetra, they were related. That's why Arjuna felt so concerned about killing his teachers and those that he felt were worshipable. So that is part of the problem. So see, our attachments, what she's trying to explain here is that it's our attachments that cause us our repeated birth and death within the material world. Once we realize that sarva dharma parityaja mamikam saranambraja aham tvam sarva papebhyo mokshayishami masucha. Once we realize that Krishna is the source of all material spiritual worlds, he's the father of all living entities. He actually comes in every species of life. Queen Kunti was saying this is bewildering to her. How can Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead, standing before her, how can he be born amongst aquatics and animals? See? How is it that he can cry and the tears from his eyes smear his mascara as he's running away from his mother she's got a chastisement stick?
Mhm.
How is it that God can be in these situations? She says this is bewildering to her. Completely bewildering to her. So what she's saying is she can't understand God, but one thing she does know one thing she does know is that these attachments in the material world have caused her a great deal of grief and pain and suffering. So therefore, she's asking to be absolved of all material attachment, even to family, right? Because the eternal family will be there. Your soul is immortal. The souls of your children, the souls of your husband, the souls of your parents, the souls of, they're all still alive. They'll never die. They can't die, right? They don't die. If you read the Bhagavad Gita, you'll see that they don't. Never was there a time when I did not exist, nor you, nor all these kings, Krishna says, right? And as the soul continually passes from childhood to youth and to old age, and then into another body at the time of death, right? Depending on our karma. So she wants to be absolved of all of this. She wants to finish this journey once and for all. And she wants to go back home, back to Godhead, and be with Krishna in paradise eternally. So that's the idea behind that. So all right, there's a couple of points in here I want to make to you guys. One is that in text 27, Krishna, or text 26, it says, if we go to 26 real quick, I'll read this to you again. Can you, my Lord, your lordship can be easily approached, but only by those who are materially exhausted. Now that's a very, very, very important point. Okay. Material exhaustion. What does that mean? Now, in my own personal life, you know, I'll be 70 this coming year. And I found that I've become quite materially exhausted. I'll just be real honest with you. I think the reason why they make retirement age 62 in America is because you're burned out. You're done, man. You're materially exhausted. You want to get out of there. Most of the time, what I see when I'm driving down the road is these old guys out on the golf course banging this little ball around, trying to put it in a hole. And I'm thinking, this has got to be ridiculous. These are the last years of your life, and you're wasting them banging a ball around, trying to keep score who put it in the hole more than the other person. How nonsense is this, actually? Right? If we think about it, because we should be instead using all our time studying about the soul, about our transference back to the spiritual sky, knowledge of the Vedas, of the Shastra, understanding our relationship with Krishna. We should understand the yoga system. We need to know all of those things. And unfortunately, nobody is presenting this philosophy to the greater body of the vox populi, if you will. Now, Prabhupada came to bring it, and the hippies embraced it. I was one of them. But it grew and grew and grew, and it kind of died out in the Western world because everybody is enamored with sense gratification. Look, we would rather have our sense gratification fix than live an eternal life. I know that sounds crazy, but it's true, because we make those choices ourselves regularly to deny our spiritual self in the instructions of God, to follow our senses in the material world, which are paths to death. We have one prayer that we chant when we take prasadam. What is that prayer? Sharira vijijal jadindriya dahe kal jiva phale visai sagare tarmaje jivoyati loba moy sadurmati. Basically, this prayer means that, oh Lord, the senses are a network of paths that lead me to death. Right? That's what it is. These senses are pulling us around. If you've seen that beautiful painting, illustration in the Bhagavad Gita, it shows the soul as the driver of the chariot, pulling on the five senses, which are the horses, and the chariot of the body. And we see an abyss right there, and the horses are running to the abyss, and the soul is pulling on the reins, trying to keep the chariot from going off into the great abyss. So if we don't deny this material self, we can't embrace our spiritual self. It's like if your hand is full, and let's say you're holding something filthy, and I say, put it down and pick up something wonderful, pick up a fruit, put down that excrement and pick up a fruit. That's what we're saying. We're not leaving empty-handed. We're just filling our hands with transcendental sense gratification. Transcendental sense gratification. And what is that? Dancing, singing, tasting nice prasadam, associating with thoroughly honest devotees or people on the path back home, back to Godhead, relishing these wonderful stories of the Bhagavatam over and over again, sharing our questions and our illuminations with one another. This is very delightful. Everything else in the Bhagavatam, it says every other thing that you do is like the croaking of the bullfrog. So the bullfrog, he is thinking, man, I'm croaking so nice. He's bellowing out his chest and he's making this big loud noise. And he's thinking, man, I'm really something. But all that's happening is he's calling the snake near. Because the snake is listening. Yes, there's the bullfrog. There's dinner. So we don't want to be like the bullfrog. Just our mouths are filled up with prajalpa. Prajalpa. Prajalpa means nonsense. What are we talking about? If we're not discussing the pastimes of Krishna, there are unlimited pastimes. Has everybody read the Srimad Bhagavatam a few times? Do we all have it memorized? No, that's why we're doing it now. So there's plenty to be done here. And part of what we're doing then is to hear these stories. And by hearing what Queen Kunti says, that we need to become materially exhausted. So if we're trying to improve ourselves with respectable parentage, great opulence, high educations, bodily beauty, we cannot approach God with sincerity. And many times in religion, it's simply a matter of going and using God as an order taker. We go to the temple and we go, God, give me this. Or we say a prayer to a demigod, oh, demigod, give me this, right? Or we're going after something. We want something for ourselves. We are selfish, and we're going to ask for a selfish thing. It says that the Vaishnava doesn't ask the Lord really for anything. He accepts whatever is given to him as his lot in life, and he sees everything as if he deserves much worse. So he's always satisfied with whatever comes by its own accord, without all this extraneous effort to amass large bank accounts or whatever it is. And you can see that people today are just flying back and forth across the sky and up and down the interstate as fast as they can go, and they're all angry that you've gotten in their way. Because don't you understand who they are? See what I mean? You're stopping their sense gratification. They've got a place to be, and wherever they're doing is much more important than you. So therefore, you become insignificant, and their desire to lord it over the material world becomes everything. And then that demoniac nature carries them down lower and lower by their own device and by their own choices. They put themselves into jeopardy again and again, and they take material bodies again and again and suffer old age, birth, and death. So she is trying to be very careful here to explain that we need to become, it says even here that you are the property of the materially impoverished. The materially impoverished. They have no place to go but Krishna. They have no place to go but God. So Kunti's saying to be in this type of distress is actually very healthy, because it makes us remember you at every moment. And by remembering God at every moment, you're in a state of transcendence, free of karmic retribution. You're in a deathless state when you're remembering Krishna. We have to leave this body. We've taken it, but this could be the last time we have to take a material body, and we could go back to the spiritual world. So that's the idea. And we're seeing that the Lord's transcendental pastimes, which appear to be human, are misleading, because then we think that God is one of us. There's a song, it says, what if God were one of us, a stranger on the bus, trying to find his way home? Well, how could he help us if he's in that situation? So God cannot be one of us. God is the source of all of us. And so what we have to do then is to give ourselves back to the Lord in full surrender. And by doing that, we become deathless. So those were a few of the points that I wanted to bring out. And if you got any others, please go ahead and bring those to bear, because we are going to be running out of time here in a couple of minutes.
Sorry, it's me again.
Okay.
I didn't read here, so it must be later on in Srimad Bhagavatam, because Queen Kunti actually prays for these catastrophes to happen again and again and again, because then she can remember Krishna all the time.
Yeah, we just read that.
Oh, did we read it? I just didn't see it.
Here, yeah, that's in this prayer.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because that is an amazing prayer, isn't it? That
Yeah.
most of us are praying to God to relieve us from our suffering. We're saying, please, God, can you stop all these bad things happening? But she's asking, please, God, bring it on. Give me these bad things, because then I can remember you.
So she is truly in a state of transcendental enlightenment, because she realizes this body is a temporary creation and it can be finished at any moment. Our beauty could be finished, our wealth could be finished, our home, whatever we have, our children, our parents, whatever. It's just like when you go to sleep at night. You forget all these people. You don't even know they exist. You might be flying in the space in some, who knows what you might be dreaming. You could be dreaming any kind of thing. It wouldn't really matter. But the point is that the sleep at night is called the little death. So now we all have experience of death. Tonight, when you go to bed, at some point you'll lay down and the thinking process will stop. And the eyes will close and you'll go into sleep. There's various levels of sleep, right? But the one sleep, I forgot what the name of it is Pula, something like that. I can't remember the name of that, but that's deep, deep, deep unconscious sleep. And that's what happens during the annihilation when Brahma goes to sleep. We go into that state of sleep, which is complete null and void. You don't have any consciousness at all. So when you go to sleep tonight, think of this. This is the little death. When you close your eyes and everything fades away, the family is gone, the house is gone, the nation is gone, the body is gone, the identification as a woman or a man or a nationalist or a certain religion, all of those things are finished when you go to sleep at night. They're also finished when you die. But according to your activities, you take another birth exactly in the womb of a mother who is perfect for you in your karma, right? So that's what happens, that's why she says, she goes on, O Lord of the universe, soul of the universal, personality, the form of the universe, please therefore sever my tie of affection for my kinsmen, the Pandavas and the Vrishnis. O Lord of Madhu, as the Ganges forever flows to the sea without hindrance, let my attraction be constantly drawn to you without being diverted to anyone else. So that's what we want. That's what we're praying for. We want our attention to be fixed on God. And by doing that, everything else will be fine. It won't be a problem. So that's the idea. We put God first, and then everything else is coming somewhere else down the line. Right? So I believe that pretty much covers this chapter. I was just thinking if there was anything else I wanted to mention to you out of this chapter. There's so much, but I believe we've pretty much covered most of what we're talking about here today. And we are going to be going into the next chapter, which is also a very wonderful chapter with Bhishma on the bed of arrows. And you can see how Bhishma is controlling his life heirs and leaves his body at exactly the perfect moment. This is what yogis can do. And he's on a bed of arrows, but he's sustaining his life force. And he's waiting for Krishna to come so that he can fix his mind on the beautiful form of the Lord. And he says such wonderful prayers. So next week, do not miss that. Do not miss that one, because we'll be doing that one next Monday night. Okay. So, I mean, we could go on for a long time, but just know that our goal is to become like Queen Kunti. Our goal is to take up this attitude of Queen Kunti. Our goal is to read these prayers of Queen Kunti and let them saturate in our hearts and souls so that we can then have our mind run continuously to the Lord. You got another point? Any other points? No? Okay. So it's 8:01.
So, so is this class every Monday?
It is.
Okay. The same time.
Yes, same time. And what we do is we'll take a chapter. We've done the Bhagavad Gita.
Oh,
Want to go back to Bhakti Yoga Tennessee and listen to all the Bhagavad Gita, you can. There's 18 of these on that. And now we're at number 8 on the Srimad Bhagavatam. So, and then when we finish Bhagavatam, we'll do something else. And we may even do some other things because Rangavati is pushing us to do more reading.
yeah, let's do that. I will be connected. I didn't know actually. I started reading Bhagavad Gita with Kalindima, but then because of the time change between like 3 to 4 people, we couldn't continue. Even she had to go to China and all those things.
Sure. Well, now you've got a group, and welcome home. That's all we can say. We're so happy to have you, and you're welcome to invite all your friends.
Thank you.
And people come and just read with us and study with us, and then we can all speak and speak our points and things that we feel like are important to us as we study. So I am very grateful for all of your association, and I'm very happy to have had that opportunity to hear and chant with you this evening. So we'll pick this up on the next go around on next Monday night. Please be here and come ready to read, is all I can tell you. It's going to be a great story next time. Okay?
Hare Krishna.
Hi, Hare Krishna, everybody. Thank you so very, very much for coming. I'm going to end the conversation now. Hari Bol.
Hare Bol.